What is poppin' YouTube? Back again with another video. Today we're doing my way too early 2024 rookie class rankings. Let's go. The first player on my list in the S tier is going to be Caleb Williams. We don't really need to dive into it too much because Caleb Williams is the Bijan Robinson of this class. He is going to be the undoubtedly 101 next season, as long as nothing crazy happens this season, which I can't imagine it happening with an offense with Lincoln Riley and now Cliff Kingsbury. Caleb Williams is about to show out. 6'1", 210 pounds, a 4.5 40, a 99th percentile speed score. He's got an 89% scouting grade, and this last year just popped off at USC with 42 touchdowns, 4,500 yards, and winning the Heisman. Now, watching the Utah defense against Caleb Williams in the Pac-12 championship game didn't look too great, but he did get injured and he did play through it, and he showed his toughness. I'm excited to see Caleb Williams, undoubtedly 101. A lot of you tanking are super excited for Caleb Williams, and that's why you're tanking, because you want to have this man be the next cornerstone quarterback asset. Now, I think a lot of people are saying he's the next Patrick Mahomes. Let's not forget, Patrick Mahomes was not a top overall pick. He wasn't this generational type prospect. I think Caleb Williams goes into the same category as like a Trevor Lawrence, where he has these super high expectations coming into the league. He's going to be the undoubtedly #1 pick in the NFL draft, and therefore he will be the undoubtedly #1 pick in our Superflex rookie mock drafts next offseason. My second player in the S tier is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver 1 of the 2024 class. Marvin Harrison Jr., a little bit different than his daddy. His daddy, a little smaller, a little bit more agile, a little better in his route tree. Whereas Marvin Harrison Jr. is your prototypical alpha wide receiver, 6'3", 205. I believe he's actually probably gotten up to 215. We are going off player profiler stats. 4.6 40, and he's got a scouting grade in that 82nd percentile, but I believe that will be going up this year after the fact that he had a 26% target share at Ohio State this last season, 14 total touchdowns, 77 receptions on 109 targets. Woo! Marvin Harrison Jr., baby. And I think the most impressive thing about Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't just the Rose Bowl game 2 years ago where he came and that was like his breakout party, but was watching him this last season, going up against Georgia, going up against their elite level defense, and just torching them, getting open play after play after play. I know he did get injured on that touchdown throw at the beginning of the second half, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is a stud. And if you miss out on Caleb Williams, getting to add Marvin Harrison Jr., who's in the same cloth as a Jamar Chase, as a top level end prospect. Now, a lot of people are saying he's the best prospect since Calvin Johnson. I would say this is how I would rank it currently right now. We got Calvin Johnson still at the top. We got Marvin Harrison Jr., and then we have Jamar Chase. So I think he's somewhere in between Jamar Chase and Calvin Johnson. But if that's what you're getting on your dynasty team at the 102 because you missed out on the 101 with Caleb Williams, that feels amazing. Marvin Harrison Jr. is in my S tier. My third player in my S tier is going to be Drake Maye. Now, people might be saying, well, Caleb, I think I would prefer Drake Maye over Marvin Harrison Jr., just the way that I build my Superflex rosters. I totally hear you on that. I think there's a lot for Drake Maye still to prove this season. I think Drake Maye, out of everyone in this S tier, has the most to prove this season. He has all the intangibles, 6'5", 220, lengthy as all get out. A lot of people are comparing him to Justin Herbert with the way that he's able to scramble, because if we actually look, 4.5 40, and so he's pretty fast. 38 total touchdowns this last season, 4,300 passing yards, 516 attempts. Honestly, there was a point last season where Drake Maye was talked about in the Heisman conversation before UNC took a few losses. Drake Maye's easily going to probably be going in the top 3 picks. All three of these guys are, if they all stay healthy and everything goes as planned, will be the top 3 picks in the NFL draft, and they'll also be the top 3 picks in our Dynasty Superflex rookie drafts. I think there could be an argument to be made that Drake Maye could eventually pass Marvin Harrison Jr., just depending on your team build. But I still think right now, at least as we're looking at it, that Marvin Harrison Jr.'s ceiling in the Dynasty rankings are going to be more cemented next season than maybe Drake Maye, who comes in as the QB 11, QB 12 in Dynasty Superflex rankings. Moving on to my A tier, I have Emeka Ebuka starting off this A tier. Now, you're going to say to me, Caleb, you are a totally Ohio State homer. I would take so many of these other rookies over Emeka Ebuka. Emeka Ebuka has gotten overshadowed by Marvin Harrison Jr. this last season. If we look at his stats, we're talking about 74 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 10 total touchdowns. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr. had 14 total touchdowns, but really the receptions, their yards were very, very similar. And Emeka Ebuka knows how to get open. Emeka Ebuka is an elite level athlete. He was a 5-star coming into Ohio State, where he runs a 4.42 40-yard dash. He's 6'1", 203 pounds, has the elite level route tree. In a normal class, Emeka Ebuka would be the wide receiver 1. I think when we're talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., we're talking about this prototypical, maybe not generational, but seems like generational wide receiver prospect, where Emeka Ebuka, if he was in this class, you would probably argue that you would be taking Emeka Ebuka over JSN, because I still think Emeka Ebuka is going to get that top 20 draft capital as long as everything this year goes out to play the same way that it did last season. Emeka Ebuka at the 104 feels like a good prize. Now, I think there could potentially be some quarterbacks that that jump up. We'll talk about here a little bit later. But at this point, when we're evaluating the 2024 Dynasty Rookie landscape, I have Emeka Ebuka in my A tier leading it off. I already hear the comments now. A lot of you are saying, well, Caleb, I'm not agreeing with this, but keep watching. Just keep watching. Hear me out. The next player in my A tier is going to be Treveyon Henderson now. We have a little bit debate going to be happening, but let me talk about Treveyon Henderson first. Treveyon Henderson, 5'10", 215, a BMI of 30, has the prototypical workhorse size with the 4.44 40-yard dash. This last season was a little bit injured. He was a little bit injured. A lot of people are a little bit off Treveyon Henderson currently right now. The hype is not there that it was last season when people were saying, oh, Treveyon Henderson has the chance to get into that Bijan Robinson tier. A lot of people aren't saying those same things, especially those Devy analysts. They're not saying those same things. I, as an Ohio State fan, last year just did not have the burst. He had that foot injury, so he wasn't really able to plant and or accelerate very fast. But if we look at his freshman season, 13 games, 184 rushing yards for 1,200 yards, 19 total touchdowns, 27 receptions for 312 yards. So he's got the receiving work and he has the elite level burst. I think the thing that we need to talk about with Treveyon Henderson, as an Ohio State fan, I watched J.K. Dobbins, I watched Ezekiel Elliott. I think Treveyon Henderson has better burst than J.K. Dobbins does. And now I'm not calling him Zeke, but I think Treveyon Henderson, I wouldn't be surprised if he is taken at the back end of the first round to the early second round next year, where he's coming into the league exactly kind of how Breece Hall came into the league with this super athletic running back, takes him a few games, and then boom, he's off to the races. That is my projection for Treveyon Henderson. Super excited to see what he does at Ohio State this year. He is my RB1 in the class, but some of you are going to be saying, well, Caleb, I love me some Rocket Sanders, and he is also in my A tier. Rocket Sanders, 6'2", 225, BMI of 28, runs a 4.52 40-yard dash, and has a 25% college dominator rating. On Arkansas, Rocket Sanders looks good. Rocket Sanders looks good, and I have these guys neck and neck, honestly. So if you're telling me, maybe my Ohio State fan bias is blinding my eyes, but if you were to tell me that, hey, Caleb, I'm going to be choosing Rocket Sanders over Treveyon Henderson next season, I would not be surprised. I think there's a lot of things that Rocket Sanders can do this next season. I think the biggest thing for me is just to continue to see the consistency. I feel like the home run hitting ability is not necessarily there as much as it is for Treveyon Henderson. Rocket Sanders could prove me wrong. This last season, 222 rushing attempts for 1,400 yards, 12 total touchdowns, and 28 receptions, so he can't catch the ball. Him and Treveyon Henderson, RB1, RB2 on everyone's boards for 2024 for the actual NFL draft, but also for our Dynasty rookie drafts, also have this man in the A tier. Moving down to my B tier, we have Brock Bowers, tight end, out of Georgia. 6'4", 230, 4.48, 40-yard dash. A lot of people started talking about Brock Bowers. It was like last season they were saying, hey, look out for 2024. Brock Bowers is coming out. He's going to be the next Kyle Pitts. That's what everyone was saying, because he put up 50 in his freshman season, put up 56 receptions, 882 yards for 13 total touchdowns. This last season, 63 receptions, 942 yards for only 7 touchdowns. Brock Bowers also has a 25% college dominator rating, playing on that aggressive, talented Georgia offense. A lot of people are kind of off Brock Bowers right now, and I think the reason a lot of people are off Brock Bowers when we're talking about 2024 Dynasty rookie mock drafts or talking about rankings for these 2024 rookies is we as a community, we've started devaluing tight ends just a little bit. As much as we love to draft, the elite level tight end prospects, I mean, there's a lot of busts. I mean, you do have your TJ Hawkinsons, but even TJ Hawkinson took a few years to develop. We're still waiting on Kyle Pitts. Noah Fant flamed out. Like, I could go on and on with the list of high level tight end prospects that took a long time to develop, because let's be honest, even if you look at Evan Ingram, it really took him until this last season when he turned 27 to fully emerge as an elite level tight end option in fantasy. So if you're looking at Brock Bowers and you're saying, hey, next season he's going to be 21, and then you might have to wait 3 or 4 years to even see any fruit of his results in the NFL, that can sometimes be hard to spend your mid first on when maybe there's some other players that you can address around the way. I totally hear you on that, but Brock Bowers has a huge breakout age of 18.7, and if I think there's any tight end prospect out of this year's class or next year's class that's going to be able to be the best elite level tight end prospect, I think Brock Bowers definitely has it with his receiving upside. My next guy in my B tier is going to be Xavier Worthy, wide receiver out of Texas, 5'11", 160. A lot of people were talking about Xavier Worthy as the wide receiver one in this draft class just a few years ago. When we look at his college dominator rating, 34.2% puts him in the 68th percentile. Yards per route run puts him at 14.2, 45th percentile, 29.5% target share. He's got an 18.4% breakout age, which puts him in the 97th percentile. We love to see that super early breakout age. Unofficial 4.29 40-yard dash time, so he's super quick. Xavier Worthy, like we said, if you were talking about this 2024 class, honestly, last season in 2021, we were talking about the 2024 class. We were saying Braelon Allen, Xavier Worthy, and these quarterbacks. But Xavier Worthy, for some reason, has fallen down as my wide receiver 3 on the board. And maybe Xavier Worthy has an absolutely dominant year this year and reclaims that wide receiver 2 spot from Emeka Ebuka in my book. But I still think there is a tier there. In his freshman season, had a 30% target share. Last year, in his sophomore season, had a 28% target share. We went from 63 receptions, 60 receptions, to 12 touchdowns to 9 touchdowns. Like I said, there's not a lot that changed. He really put up the same type of stats last year that he did the year before. How can I think Xavier Worthy improves? Well, I think Quinn Ewers improving. Quinn Ewers being able to play full games, not half injured. I think that's really going to help Xavier Worthy take that next step because we have seen the explosion. We have seen his quickness, and that's going to be valued in the NFL draft. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Xavier Worthy goes a little bit higher in the NFL draft than potentially Emeka Ebuka, but that's something that we're going to have to see and figure out here over the next few months. The next guy in my B tier is going to be Braelon Allen, running back out of Wisconsin. Now, a lot of you have been saying, well, Braelon Allen feels like a little bit like Zach Evans, where you're super hyped up the year before, and now I feel like Devy community looking on next year, a lot of people are starting to sour on Braelon Allen for a few reasons, but for me, he's a 238-pound running back, 6'2", has a 30.7 college dominator, put him in the 7th percentile. He's got a 6.6 target share, which puts him in the 48th percentile, but he's not a receiving back, ladies and gentlemen, but he is a grinder. 229 rushing attempts for 1,200 yards, 11 total touchdowns. He did improve his reception. He went from 8 in his freshman season to 13 in his sophomore season. Braelon Allen just needs to do it again this next year, and I think draft capital is going to be very important because I think Braelon Allen's going to get second round draft capital if I were to have to imagine. The moment he gets that second round draft capital, instant RB3 in this class in particular is what's going to hold this class together, because if we know this class, clearly we got top heavy wide receivers and quarterbacks with it, the tight end mixed in. But what's going to make or break this class is these running backs, because like we've seen in this year, if all of a sudden the running backs fall to the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, all of a sudden the class's depth disappears. And I know a lot of people are saying that the top end of the 2024 class is better than 2023. I think it's too early to tell, but Braelon Allen definitely has the potential to be the RB3 in this class. Excited to see what he does this next year at Wisconsin. The next guy in my B tier is going to be Malik Nabers, wide receiver out of LSU, 6'1", 188, totally outshined Kayshon Boutte this last year, 4.47 40-yard dash. He's really high percentage in the vertical jump, just uber athlete with his speed score. We look at what he did in his sophomore season. So his freshman season had only 46 targets for 28 receptions. This last year jumps that up, almost doubles it to 99 targets for 72 receptions, 1,000 yards. He had a 20% target share with 3 receiving touchdowns. Now, a lot of people are in or out on Malik Nabers. I think it's hard to say. I mean, he doesn't have a super great breakout age, did have some great stats. I just think the athleticism, the wide receiver profile is there, that if he takes that next step as the elite level alpha in the LSU offense, Malik Nabers is going to rise up the board. So I think he's a very clear wide receiver 4 for me, but I still have to clean him in this B tier because, I mean, I do maybe if we had like a sub tier, if we had Brock Bowers and Xavier Worthy in the B tier, I would put like a slight bump, and then Braelon Allen and Malik Nabers is currently how I view it. But Malik Nabers, we're super excited to see what he does this season. And like I said, all this is speculative. We don't know what's going to happen, how these rankings are going to go. If you looked at last year's rookie rankings for the 2023 class, it's all over the place. But I love me some Malik Nabers. Excited to see what he does this year at LSU. In my C tier, we have KJ Jefferson, QB3 of this class, off the board. Now, a lot of people were in on KJ Jefferson this season. If KJ Jefferson had come out, he probably would have been the QB4, QB5. And next year, we're looking at him as the QB3. Now, he is an older prospect. He's 22 years old currently. He will be 23 by the draft this next season. But what has he done? A lot of people compare KJ Jefferson in that Jalen Hurts type of mold, where he's a super athletic quarterback with rushing upside. If we look at this last season, 2,600 passing yards, 24 passing touchdowns, but had 640 rushing yards. KJ Jefferson, guys, I think if he can get back end first round, early second round draft capital, that's going to be best case scenario. And that's why he's going to be going in the back end of first round rookie draft. But if somehow he does have this big breakout this season for Arkansas, or maybe he's in the Heisman running, getting a lot of highlight reel plays, kind of like Anthony Richardson did, I wouldn't be surprised if he could somehow slide into the top 20 picks. But I'm still being a little bit hesitant with KJ Jefferson. He has all the physical tools, but we are playing Superflex, so that is why I'm taking him over some other guys. I like that running back or wide receiver. We're playing a Superflex, so KJ Jefferson goes here in my C tier. The next guy in my C tier and final player we're going to be talking about today is Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers, best prospect since Trevor Lawrence, commits to The Ohio State University, forgoes his senior year of high school, sits behind CJ Stroud, sits behind Kyle McCord, says, hey, I'm like 4th on the depth chart. There's no chance I start here. Transfers back to his home state of Texas to become the Texas Longhorns starting quarterback last season as a redshirt freshman. Now, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people gave him a lot of crap for his performance last season. 296 passing yards, 2,100 yards, 15 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions. What didn't look extremely mobile. The thing that we have to remember about Quinn Ewers, it was his freshman season. We were a little hard on the guy. Now, of course, he's playing in the Texas offense. The Texas fan base was screaming for Quinn Ewers to be this amazing Peyton Manning type resurgence that just takes their program to the national championship game. Those expectations on his shoulders were definitely too much to bear. But this season, being able to build the more connection with Xavier Worthy, being able to have the better offensive line, their recruiting has gone through the roof. I think they have surrounded Quinn Ewers with enough talent, and I think Quinn Ewers is a talented quarterback. I actually think Quinn Ewers is more talented than KJ Jefferson in this tier. I just can't put Quinn Ewers, because he hasn't done anything yet, over him. Now, you might be saying, Caleb, I prefer JJ McCarthy over Quinn Ewers. I think Quinn Ewers being the more prototypical quarterback build, I think he's going to show it off at Texas this season, so that's why I have Quinn Ewers ahead. But I wouldn't be surprised if Quinn Ewers has an absolute terrible year. Quinn Ewers has fallen into the middle of the second round, and he might not even come out anyway. And JJ McCarthy just feels like an early second round quarterback, so I'm a little bit hesitant to pump up JJ McCarthy. In my tiers here, we do have Quinn Ewers and KJ Jefferson. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Best free way to support the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.